They say the old gods of Ireland are dead. They say that electricity, tarmac roads, and the glow of street lights chase them away into the shadows of history. We tell ourselves that the creatures of folklore, the banshees, the fairies, the changelings, are just stories invented to keep children from wandering too close to the cliffs. But there are places in the west of Ireland where the street lights don't reach. There are roads that don't appear on Google Maps, and there are nights, specifically around the harvest in November, when the veil between our world and theirs gets dangerously thin. You wanted a story? You wanted to know if the legends are true? Let me tell you about a man named Cillian. Cillian didn't believe in the Púca. He thought it was a funny mascot for whiskey brands or a cute rabbit from a movie. But 5 years ago, on a desolate road in County Kerry, Cillian learned the truth. And he learned the hard way that you don't find the Púca finds you.
It was November 1st. Samhain had just passed, but the air still held that heavy, static charge of the supernatural. Cillian was driving back to his family's farmhouse for a funeral. It was 2 a.m. The rain in Ireland doesn't just fall, it drives sideways, looking for a way in. His car, a reliable old diesel, suddenly cut out. No warning lights, no sputtering. It just died. The headlights flickered and vanished, plunging him into a darkness so absolute it felt heavy against his eyes. Cillian sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. He turned the key. Silence. He checked his phone. No signal. Of course. He knew this road. It was narrow, lined on both sides by ancient dry stone walls that had stood since the famine. He was about 3 miles from home. He had a flashlight in the glove box and a heavy coat. He decided to walk. As he stepped out of the car, the silence hit him. The wind had died down instantly. The rain stopped. It was that sudden, unnatural quiet that predators use to disorient their prey. Cillian started walking. The beam of his flashlight cut a weak path through the mist. To his left, over the stone wall, was an open field. To his right, a dense patch of gnarled oak trees. About a mile in, he heard it. Click, click, click. It sounded like hooves, but light, delicate, like a goat or a dancer. Cillian stopped. The sound stopped. He started walking. The sound started. Click, click, click. "Is anyone there?" he called out. His voice sounded small, swallowed instantly by the fog. From the top of the stone wall to his left, something shifted. Cillian swung his light up. Sitting there, perched on the jagged stones like a gargoyle, was a hare. But it was wrong. It was too big, the size of a large dog. Its fur was matted and black as crude oil, and it wasn't scared. Hares run. This thing sat perfectly still, staring at him. Cillian felt a cold sweat break out on his neck. He lowered the light, trying to ignore it, and walked faster. From behind him, a voice spoke. It didn't sound like it came from a throat. It sounded like it came from the stones themselves, gravelly, deep, and mocking. "You didn't leave a share of the harvest, Cillian." Cillian spun around. The hare was gone. In the middle of the road, blocking his path, stood a horse. This was the Puca. It was massive, its shoulders rising higher than Cillian's head. Its coat was a void of blackness that seemed to absorb the beam of the flashlight. Its mane was tangled with briars and what looked like old bones. But it was the eyes that froze Cillian's blood. They were burning gold, rectangular pupils dilated in a look of pure, intelligent malice. It didn't attack. It didn't charge. It just lowered its massive head, steam rolling from its nostrils, and whispered, "The walk is long. The mud is deep. Climb up." Cillian wanted to run. Every instinct in his DNA screamed at him to run into the trees, but his legs wouldn't move. It was as if the creature had hooked a chain into his mind. He felt a compulsion, a sick, heavy gravity pulling him toward the beast. He found himself walking forward. He found his hand gripping the coarse, oily mane. He found himself swinging his leg over the broad back. The moment his skin touched the animal, the world shattered.
The Púca didn't gallop, it exploded into motion. Cillian was thrown backward, barely holding on as the creature tore down the road. But they didn't stay on the road. The beast leaped the 7-foot stone wall as if it were a pebble. They were in the fields now, but the fields were wrong. The grass was glowing with a pale blue luminescence. The trees looked like grasping hands. The speed was impossible. Cillian's eyes watered so hard he was blinded, but images flashed in his mind. He saw the landscape not as it was, but as it had been 1,000 years ago. He saw ancient fires burning on the hills. He saw armies of iron and bronze clashing in the mud. He saw the old fairy forts lit up with revelry. The Púca laughed. It was a terrifying, braying sound that vibrated through Cillian's ribcage. "Faster," the beast taunted. "Do you want to see where the rivers end?" They hit the riverbank. The water was swollen and raging from the storm. The horse didn't stop. It dove. For a moment, Cillian was underwater, the freezing cold piercing his clothes, the sound of the rushing current deafening him. He held his breath, sure he was drowning. Then, with a mighty heave, the Púca burst from the water on the other side, shaking its coat dry in a split second. They climbed the side of a mountain that should have taken hours to hike. They did it in seconds, up and up, until Cillian could see the lights of the entire county below him, flickering like dying candles. The Púca stood on the very edge of a sheer cliff, a drop of 300 feet into the jagged rocks of the Atlantic Ocean below. The beast reared up on its hind legs, teetering on the precipice. Cillian screamed, clutching the mane, dangling over the abyss. "I could drop you," the Púca whispered, the voice echoing inside Cillian's skull. "I could let you fall, and no one would find you until the tide brought you back. You didn't respect the old ways, Cillian. You forgot us." "I'm sorry," Cillian screamed into the wind. "I'm sorry." The horse held him there, suspended between life and death, savoring his terror like a fine wine. The golden eyes turned back to look at him, filled with ancient, cruel amusement. "Remember this fear," the Púca said. "It is the only offering I have received from you." Cillian hit the ground hard. The air was knocked out of him. He curled into a ball, waiting for the hooves to crush his skull. Silence. He gasped for air, pushing himself up on shaking arms. He looked around. He was lying in the front yard of his parents' farmhouse. The porch light was flickering. His car was parked in the driveway, perfectly fine. He reached into his pocket to find his house keys. His hand brushed against something cold and slimy. He pulled it out. In the palm of his hand lay a clump of coarse black horsehair, matted with mud and smelling of sulfur and ancient earth, and underneath the hair, wrapped in a leaf, was a single solid gold coin, stamped with a date from 1702. Low, ominous drone returns. Cillian never drove that road at night again. In fact, he sold the car a week later. He still has the coin. He keeps it in a locked box, buried in the back of his closet. He's afraid to spend it. He's afraid that if he uses it, the transaction will be complete. Because the Púca is a trickster. It gives and it takes. It brings good fortune and it brings disaster. Cillian got home safe that night. He got a piece of gold. That's the good fortune. But look closely at Cillian today. His hair turned snow white overnight. He walks with a limp, though doctors can find no injury in his leg. And if a dog barks too loudly or a horse whinnies in a nearby field, he freezes. He knows that the ride isn't over. The Púca merely dropped him off. It knows where he lives, and next November, when the harvest comes and the wind howls through the stone walls, it might decide to come back for the return trip. So the next time you see a stray horse standing alone in a misty field, watching you with eyes that seem a little too intelligent, don't offer it an apple, don't try to pet it, and for the love of God, do not get on its back, because the Púca is real, and it is always looking for a passenger. If a creature offered you a ride that would change your life, but you might not survive it, would you get on? Like and subscribe for more true horror stories.